Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, depending on where you are joining us from. This is the maiden edition of the Wealth Masters End of Month Conversation. And it's humbling to have all of you here. We know that by the time we live in this 1.5 hour session, we will definitely be blessed. Blessed with knowledge, blessed with insight. I am only the John the Baptist, paving way for my boss. And today, I present to you the woman whose idea and dream it has been that at least 100 individuals and professionals will become more knowledgeable with respect to creating wealth, distributing wealth for generations yet unborn. Is the reason why we are here. Her name I will reserve for a moment, except to say that the crown of it all was not long ago at the Women in Finance and Investment Summit, she being presented with the award Wealth Manager of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow wealth masters, I present to you Dr. Suzy Aku Puplampu, CEO of Octane DC Limited. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you very much, Evans. Thank you for your kind introduction of me. And I'm so super excited to have you all make time for us to join us this afternoon, right after your lunch, for the maiden edition, which we have themed Generational Wealth 101. Welcome, guests who are joining us, guests who are outside the Wealth Masters platform, my little village that I have created this year to just give back to the community on issues concerning wealth creation and wealth management. Thank you all for making the time this afternoon. For January, as we have advertised over the weeks, our conversation is on generational wealth, informed largely by generational thinking. As has been said over the period, if you don't have the next gen on your mind, every decision you take will be just about now, about today. When it comes to wealth creation and wealth management, the agenda is for us all to begin to think very long and have a stretch when it comes to investment decisions and management. Today, we have a very special guest, one who is gradually becoming my new girlfriend. She's an international award-winning entrepreneur, succession specialist, and a legacy planning expert for future-focused business families. She's on a mission to help businesses move from lifetime to legacy, such that they build family enterprises of the future. With over a decade of family enterprise expertise in Nigeria, Nike helps owners lead their family organizations to long-term legacy and impact. Her inside experience as a second-generation family business owner and a family office pioneer birthed a passion to help other families in building expertise that would outlive them. That is legacy. By night, Nike is the author of Lifetime to Legacy, a new vision for multi-generational family businesses yet to be released in Q2 of this year. She's also the co-founder of African Family Firms, a Pan-African association of family businesses that is focused on promoting generational wealth and generational legacies on the African continent. She's the host of the Connected Generation podcast, a top 10 family business podcast globally that is dedicated to next gens that are seeking to navigate building generational enterprises whilst leaving an impact. Nike has a global outlook, having lived and worked in 3 continents. She's a champion for diversity, passionate about improving age and gender diversity and inclusion in business families. If there are any overused words in Nike Anani's profile, then it is the word generation, generational wealth. Nike Anani, you are welcome to the Wealth Masters platform. The stage is yours for the next 30 minutes to share with us what you have so far as generational wealth and family office is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suzy. It's an honor to be here. I envisaged that we were having a conversational style and that there were questions that I was going to be answering. So perhaps maybe I'll start with an introduction of myself, how I've gotten to where I've gotten to, and then we can unpack any questions from your audience on this topic of generational wealth. So I am a business owner. I'm a second-gen business owner. Our family enterprise is in Lagos in Nigeria. My father is the founder. So I was born into a business family. Business and entrepreneurship has always been around me. But at the age of 9, I moved to the UK. My dad stayed back in Lagos, building out the business. Myself, my siblings, and my mum, we moved over to the UK for our education, and I went to university in London, started off my career in accountancy. Like, I'm sure if you will have some chartered accountants here today, at Deloitte. But I found professional services in London just not very fulfilling for me. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to do more, but I couldn't really articulate what more was. So I decided to come back to Nigeria for what was supposed to be 3 months to shadow my father, get more exposure to the family business. So by this point, our business had evolved into a construction business, a real estate development company, an engineering consultancy, and he'd been doing a lot of investing. And I came back to Nigeria and I fell in love with entrepreneurship. It seemed like that was the thing that was missing in the city of London. I found it so exciting to watch, as there were so many opportunities on the ground in Lagos, but not only were they profitable opportunities, there was such an opportunity to make meaningful impact by way of the work that we were doing was deepening the economic ecosystem, creating much needed jobs, and providing financial security for my family. And that was it for me. And I just got glued, and I decided to move from the UK back to Lagos, and I spent 10 years back home. I set up the family office to manage the family's investments and think more long term. How can we build generational wealth? How can we structure our assets from a legal perspective, from a tax perspective, and then also from a strategic perspective? What kind of assets and investments should we be thinking about? I guess that's when I got really glued to this space, in trying to help my family in navigating generational transition. I found that there were very few resources on the ground in Lagos and really across sub-Saharan Africa. There were very few advisors, or none to be precise, that had the expertise to help family business owners in navigating generational transition, that had the expertise in helping family business owners in navigating building generational wealth. And that was my journey in self-teaching, becoming obsessed with this space, trained up with Family Firm Institute in Boston. But of course, a lot of what we'll find out there, the resources, the knowledge, the communities are very Western centric. And in Africa, we have our nuances. From our landscape, our business landscape is quite different. Our family structures are quite different. Our societies are quite different. Opportunities are different. And I found that I had to customize a lot of what was out there as the best practice to what would suit on the African continent. And that was how I began my journey in working with families, primarily successors like myself, in navigating their leadership, building family offices, and things of the like. And along the journey, it was very clear, having conversations with many business owners, that not everybody was ready to have an external consultant to come into the room and help them with their issues privately. But most people were ready to come into community with one another. And that was the premise behind African Family Firms, the nonprofit community that I built up with my dear friend, Sisi Mutendi. And we are essentially a membership community where we seek to educate and empower business owners on how to build generational wealth. So we provide a lot of resources, a lot of awareness. We do research with partner organizations and also advocacy with governments, regulators to see that policies are actually helping and aiding families so that they can build generational wealth.
That was super. From where I sit, a number of expressions have come up from what you have said. Thinking long term, having the next generation in mind, thinking about businesses beyond oneself, having the family at the core of what we are doing. And another interesting thing that you mentioned was people availing themselves for external support. Because when it comes to conversations about wealth in our part of the world, a number of people are not willing to let go insofar as their wealth is concerned. But one thing I keep saying is that the only way you can move from one level to the other is to know what you have now. So if you are not able to share what you have now with an external person to gain the necessary support in terms of growth, then it becomes very difficult. So the first question I will ask for you, how do you cross that bridge when it comes to getting people to open up? Because if you go to the hospital, you sit in front of the doctor and he says, Suzy, welcome. What brings you here? If I decide to tell him or her what I think I should say, and I leave the critical one, then the prescription will be based on what I say and not everything that I'm supposed to hear. So how do you get people to be willing to tell you what they have now and where they want to in terms of wealth creation?
This is such a loaded question, and it's a really important question. It's at the heart of what we do. And it's really understanding, because I'm a business owner and I've been on the other side, that business owners really find it difficult to trust people, to trust other people. They have a lot of high inner self-belief in their ability to make money and to do things. Typically, when we look at founders, you find that they are the custodian of the ideas, the strategy, and they're just surrounded by helpers. So to then change the dynamic with an external party where they're learning from someone else is quite different from what they're used to. And dealing with matters of wealth, of business, of family, these are all really important matters to them. So to divulge these matters to someone, it's not going to be immediate. It's not a transactional matter. It's not just I need a dentist, or I need to buy a bag, or this is my life. I've spent 30 years on this business and all the assets I have, and I'm supposed to. So it's understanding that as an advisor, that trust is really important. Trust isn't built overnight. Trust is built through consistency, and trust is built gradually. So they may start with a conversation on, okay, I'm looking to buy a property in the UK. I'm looking to buy a property locally, or, it may start very transactional. And what they're trying to do is really gauge you and build that trust with you. And through all the different touch points with you, is either affirming that you're trustworthy or the opposite. So it's standing by their side, demonstrating that you care about their long-term vision and what it is that they really want to achieve, and that is to provide financial security for the sake of the benefit of the family. So being careful in the language that one uses. If we speak to families and speak to business owners only in the language of money, that will be the only language they'll be able to speak to us. And this is not just about money. This is really about family, because it gets dicey. They may have questions in their mind. Who will take over this business? Am I sharing my assets equally with all my children? Are they even capable of managing these assets or running this business? There may be conflicts within the family that they won't tell you on the first day that they're meeting, right? And these are all factors that may influence the succession planning process. So I would say be very mindful about demonstrating that you're trustworthy, building trust over time. This is not transactional, this is transformational.
The conversation on trust, we'll pick it up at some point in the conversation, because most of the time the clients expect you to help them gain that trust in you as the professional. I can only tell you what I can offer based on the knowledge, based on the experience. But it comes both ways. That at the other side, the client will also make the effort to help us all gain the trust. Because I also need to gain the trust in you as a client, just as you're also looking at gaining the trust in me, that every information or every guidance that I'm providing, it will be useful for you along the line. We have some few hands up, so I'll call them to also ask their questions. Evans, please.
Okay, it's a privilege to have read your book before it is launched. I have many thoughts and ideas. I'll share some of them with you later. But just one quick one. You made the point that legacy is not what we leave with people, but what we leave in people.
Indeed.
What do you mean by that, please?
Legacy is not just about transfer of physical assets. It's about skill. There's a quote by, I'll find it, but essentially it's about our role is to equip the next generation with roots and wings. Roots, an understanding of their history and where they're from. Wings, the ability for them to have agency and to create a new future. In the context of generational wealth and generational legacy, it's not just about passing on $1 million, $3 million to each of your children and the assets. It's also about the know-how. How will do we have the values, the skills, and the relationships to not only maintain these assets, but to create, and to do so in such a way that the acquisition of wealth does not destroy the unity of the family. Those are the things that we're leaving in people.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Danswa.
Hi, Nike. So I want to take you back a bit to when you said you relocated to Nigeria to work with your father, and then also the point you made about the knowledge you had gained, and then having to, taking the nuances of what Africa is. I mean, Africa is not typically what we learn in our textbooks. So I just want to understand how you navigated that whole season, how you take like probably an economic principle or a business-based principle, and understand that now you're in Lagos or you're in Accra and things are done differently. And how do you just manage that migration?
There's many mistakes, but what I will say is a lot of the time when we're Western educated and we go abroad and we come back home, we can come back quite arrogant and assume that we have all the answers because we've been in the West, and that is definitely not the way to adapt to Africa, because Africa comes with its plenty nuances and there's a lot to learn. I've been out of the country for 16 years. So I left Nigeria when I was 9. I was basically an immigrant. And I had to learn a lot about the business culture. I had to learn about our culture. We have 250 tribes. Lagos has 20 million people. The country has 250 million people. There's so much diversity, politics, how it influenced business. We're in a construction space, which is, influenced by politics. So there was a lot I had to learn, and as well as the legacy, and I don't mean legacy in the way we've been speaking about, but I mean the history of the business, the evolution of the business, the key players in the business. we were a family business, and unfortunately, many are not necessarily formal. So there were key people that had institutional memory here, and I had to, learn from them. So that was a process of humility, to be perfectly honest, developing deep empathy for people that are not like me, don't think like me, and putting away a lot of what has been enshrined in our minds in society as to the pecking order in status, pecking order, age. I was 24, and moving into the family business, having people that were in their 50s reporting to me. And so there was a lot I had to develop in terms of character. Now, when I was moving into the realm of, this was like the first 5 years. After 5 years was when I was then thinking generationally, okay, how are we going to move this past this generation, and starting to do lots of research globally. That was another, challenge, because like I said, a lot of the content, a lot of the universities, a lot of the case studies, a lot of the resources were Western centric. And I had to start to learn, what does this look like in Africa? And that really took the form of having conversations with family business owners, the privileged few that had transitioned successfully across generations, as well as those that had not, those that were the patriarch or the matriarch of the business passed away and everything fell apart. Why? Have those conversations to understand what is really going on in our community. In Nigeria, the statistic is that only 2% of business owners would successfully transition their business to the next generation. So 98% of founders' businesses don't make it when they pass away. And to put that number into perspective, that number is 33% globally. So there was a huge discrepancy. Why? Just asking those questions, and then just starting to form that community of business owners, informally to begin with, and then formally with African family firms.
Thank you.
Very insightful. I just want to mention to all of us on the call here, don't feel like you don't have a business now, so this conversation does not relate to you. When it comes to wealth creation, a point we keep making is that it's not just cash, it's not just bank balances, it's not just physical assets. Your skills, your knowledge, everything that you are building for yourself, who will carry on with it when you are no longer there? All the investments we are making in assets, we are buying land, we have cars, we have investment in financial assets, we have real estates. Anything at all we have is wealth. How are we thinking about moving that on to the next generation, in terms of succession planning and all that? So this is all in the contents of building wealth and building something significant for yourself. Let me break protocol here. We'll take some more questions later. I'll introduce two of my friends on this call now to share some thoughts on this subject with us. Firstly, I'll ask Mrs. Doris Ahiati to join us on the stage. She's a financial advisor and an executive coach. By night, she's a first-generation entrepreneur building a business in poultry farming. Doris, we have heard everything that has been said by Nike so far. As I keep saying, the conversation begins with financial planning. And I know you have been engaging a lot of people in planning their finances over the long term. So please share with us in some few minutes what your experiences has been so far, speaking to people, speaking to institutions on planning their finances over the long term.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suzy, and let me also congratulate you for this very timely program that you have rolled out. Well done to you and your team. And I also want to acknowledge the wonderful submissions that Nike has provided us with. I was sitting here nodding my head and very excited, especially when she touched on the subject of what you leave in them. Because sometimes we overestimate or we give too much value to cash. Wealth is not just about cash, bank balances. It's more than that. And I think the reason why I get excited in forums like that is because I'm also a co-founder and the CEO for Crescendo Consult, which is a financial planning and financial advisory firm that also does consulting and executive coaching, among other things. Now, for my financial planning experiences, and we have packages for families and we have packages for individuals and groups. The experience has usually been led by a certain level of awareness and then readiness. And so you have clients that will approach you with a lot of excitement. They are very ready to sign on to your financial planning services. And often they are in this place because they heard you on radio or television, or they heard somebody else, they participated in some financial literacy program, and they feel all excited and worked up to take action. So they come to you very, very ready. However, the level of understanding and awareness about what financial planning entails, what the journey is going to be like, tends to be low. In exceptional cases, you have someone approach you and they have both high degree of awareness and they also have a very high degree of readiness. And so you quickly get on the ground and you are running at a good pace. Now, for those people that come with low level of awareness, what we do at Crescendo, and I believe a lot of other financial planning professionals also will do, would be to take time to nurture these people, to build their level of understanding of what the journey will entail over time. There's a high level of commitment that is required to be successful with your financial planning, because there are goals that are going to be worked at, and you need to be diligent in working towards these goals. There is discipline that comes on board. And what I've observed from our practice is that we often have people that have come, they are very ready to set the ball rolling, but they are in so much hurry that they don't have time to set their goals. And essentially, when it comes to the planning aspect, it requires you to sit down with the people and evaluate them, profile them, understand their circumstances, where trust comes in, because they have to spill the beans, if you like, literally. They have to open up completely to you. And like Nikki said, it depends on the years of trust building. So some of them come to you because they feel that level of trust and comfort with you. But even so, when they have come, some hesitate a little bit in sharing everything. And then we also have a very crucial step we often take in financial planning, which is the inventory taking. And you have people that quite don't remember. If they knew where the assets are, they would share with you. But they genuinely don't remember. It's been so long. There's been no records to what their wealth creation activities have been. So they don't know. They may leave sessions and then remember something, then they will call you. They will get a report in the email and then they will remember. And so we have to deal with all these. And the final thing that I wanted to add is the fact that if they forget to show commitment and interest in the objective or goal setting, it doesn't take too long before they lose the motivation, because it's not possible to track whatever progress that they are making. And so this is a little bit of a challenge that I have with some of the clients I have to deal with. You don't want to chase them, be a nuisance, because some professional standards require that you allow them to make the first move, to show that commitment. But when you check in once, twice, and they are not willing to go through the stage of objective setting, you know that they will run around a bit, and then they will lose that motivation because they really can't tell whether they are making any progress towards the wealth they wanted to create, because there's no goal, there is no objective. And so my encouragement to everyone on the call will be that wealth creation is possible. And a very key aspect of being successful with your wealth creation vision is to gain financial literacy. And so you probably want to be a subscriber regularly to Wealth Masters webinars, because every month you are going to have access to this. And I know that for now, there's no fee that you are paying to access all the free consultation that is happening. And note that having a goal, a financial objective, underpins whatever progress you are going to make. It underpins your ability to remain energized and motivated. And so take note of that. And you can be thinking about setting your goals already before you even find yourself in a place with a financial planner or someone that is working with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we need to gradually move the conversation to financial coaching and not financial mentoring. Because when it comes to a coach sets specific targets for you that you have to achieve within certain timeline. So maybe we need to introduce coaching into the whole financial advisory program. So thank you so much, Mrs. Ahiati. Thank you for your insights and sharing your experiences over the years. One critical asset class we have whenever we talk about portfolio or wealth creation is real estate. I will invite on the stage a real estate professional, one who specializes in real estate research that is used to inform decision making by stakeholders. Currently, she's the Vice President for Strategy and Operations at Atsakpo Global. Taswa Adote will share with us her experiences so far in telling individuals about having real estate and the approach to acquiring real estate as an individual or as a group as part of your portfolio. Taswa, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suzy. Thanks everyone on the call also. Well, I think we all must know a little bit about real estate. If nothing at all, we know that it's probably the most expensive physical asset that you're going to buy over the course of your lifetime. And the unique thing about real estate too, since we are talking about generational wealth, is that it is an asset that can be passed on from generation to generation. I mean, if you live in Accra and you're familiar with areas like Airport Residential Area, cantonments, and the like, these are all locations now that are considered prime. And the inhabitants or the current owners of those properties, if it has been passed on through the family, are either second generation or third generation owners, and they are benefiting from the value appreciation, the potential rental income that can come from that asset. So definitely in terms of building wealth, one, and then two, passing on that wealth, real estate is something that is key to doing that. Now, again, my experience is limited to Ghana as far as real estate acquisition. So pardon me if there's anyone outside Ghana, because most of my examples will be based in Ghana. A lot of people do come wanting to invest in real estate. And I think what Nike's introduction resonated a lot with me, because for me, a home is not just where you live. I mean, again, understanding the cultural nuances surrounding property and property ownership, and appreciating the fact that in Ghana, it is sometimes more of a status symbol than anything else. You do come to the realization that people are not always very strategic in their acquisitions, because the objective is probably to check a social box as opposed to any medium to long-term planning. And so including real estate in your portfolio does have to come with some planning. You need to understand the location that you are purchasing in and the potential of that location. If it is something that you want to pass on to subsequent generations, it must be a location that has some potential. And also dealing with professionals, they will be able to advise you on the potential uses in the future. I think I would leave Nike to talk about the transferability of that knowledge, but that knowledge is definitely there. And so for anyone considering real estate, wanting to purchase real estate and have that asset class remaining in their portfolio, one, you know what they always say, 3 most important things about buying property is location, location, location. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that it's location in the sense that one location is better than another. It just means that the location you are choosing must satisfy the objectives for which you are buying it. And 2, looking at real estate beyond where you would stay and looking at the potential gains that you can make from it. Once upon a time in Ghana, if you were buying a plot, the standard plot was probably 100 by 100. I think prior to that, it was 100 by 120. There were significantly larger plots than we have now. Land is finite in nature. And so you realize that with the expansion of the city, plot sizes are reducing, but that is not necessarily a bad thing, because what that means is that if you do have a large plot of land, there's opportunity for you to do things, multiply the use of the land in order to generate more wealth for yourself and things that you can pass on to the generations to come. So that is what I would say for now. I believe that we are all also aware that in buying property, you need to make sure that you have done your necessary checks, make sure that the land is being bought from the rightful owners, understanding the lease term that you have, that's the time frame within which you have to enjoy the property, because that all affects your capability to even transfer and what it is that you are transferring or for your successors to inherit. Those things are very key. So I'll leave that for now. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Danswa. Thank you for those insights. When it comes to investment, one of the approach we recommend to clients is that don't stick your head so much for direct investment. Sometimes you just have to start with the indirect investment approach for you to have that exposure before you begin to look for direct acquisition. Even when it comes to the stock market, for instance, you find people who presume that it's only the rich that can participate in the stock market. If that is your perception, that's fine. There are pool funds, there are collective investment schemes that also focus on equities. So you can look at the mutual fund approach or collective approach to acquiring a certain property. What is your take I know when it comes to real estate, everybody wants a title. This is my house, this is my property.
Yeah.
This is my, if we can put some plug or something around it, we'll quickly do it. What would you say to the approach of using a pool way or route to acquiring real estate versus trying to put the $100,000 together by yourself, $200,000 together by yourself to acquire one?
I think that is actually one of the best ways. There are things in other jurisdictions such as co-ownership, and they're always juxtaposing ownership versus control. A lot of people want to be on the side of control. I own the asset, I control the asset. But the truth is, if your objective is wealth, it doesn't really matter whether you control it or not. The objective is that the asset is going to generate wealth for you. And one thing about real estate too is if you want to go into real estate investment as an individual, there's a certain understanding of the market that you must have and continue to grow in. And you may not have the time to devote to that. That may not be your primary objective. So coming together either in an institutional structure like a real estate investment trust, where you are putting your money into an organization, a bank, and then the bank is investing, or coming together as individuals. And it's quite rare in Ghana, but I've actually seen people do it. So apartments are very high return currently in Ghana, especially in prime areas. But you're looking at north of $90,000 for an apartment, and that might be too much for an individual. But on your own, you may have 30, and another person may have 20, another person may have 10. And coming together in a regulated group, and it has to be regulated because, like Nike said, we need to understand Ghanaian nuances so that they don't think it's my brother, my sister, but this is actually an entity we have formed with a singular objective of getting us a return. I think it is one of the fastest ways that an individual, if you are not, such a high income earner, can plug into the property ladder and begin to get returns from the property market. I think that it's definitely where the market is heading. It's definitely where the market is heading for Ghana, because quite a number of things are changing. The demographics of our ownership is changing, and the individuals that are changing and are open to that. And so definitely the market is going to catch on. But I like the previous speaker said, this is free advice. If it's something that you are looking to do, I would encourage you to approach a finance house. Obtain EC can help you structure that and identify an asset, identify someone who can manage the asset, and you can start earning from real estate without necessarily owning it, but you're still going to benefit from the returns that the market has to offer.
Thank you so much, Dan. So when it comes to investment, we keep learning because there's new information every time. I'll bring Nike back on the stage and I'll ask Evans to kindly read out questions that we have in the chat room. So we can
Nike, from the questions that are coming clearly, people are receiving your message very well. The first one is from Hezuba. Interestingly, she's also a Nigerian studying in Ghana at Ashesi University and a member of Wealth Masters. Thanking you initially for your presentation, but her question is, in your experience, how do you advise clients to manage siblings or relatives when managing a family business?
Yes, this is a great question. So typically, I'm dealing with first-generation founders, and I usually advise that it's important that we focus intentionally on developing siblings partnerships. So often, in our families, we're used to being siblings. We bicker, we have our roles, but we're not used to being business partners. And when we think about it, if the business is a legacy business or the wealth is legacy wealth, when it moves to the next generation, as our parents transition and we pray to outlive our parents, it will be the siblings that will be in the decision-making seat, making decisions collectively. So it's important that these siblings are active partners and not just siblings. They understand each other's respective strengths and weaknesses. They've formed a cadence for communication, for collaboration. They have clarity of their vision, their mission, their values. They have clarity as to how to escalate decision-making. They know how to deal with conflicts and what have you. So I often encourage clients to start working on developing a working effective siblings partnership during the lifetime of the founder, because this takes time. This team formation is not something that just happens overnight. It takes a few years to get into this rhythm and this cadence. And what happens is when the founder is in the room, he or she is able to kind of moderate and provide clarity on certain things that may be murky in their minds. Instead of daddy would have wanted this, mommy would have wanted that, everybody starts fighting, they're not talking again. We have clarity of vision and mission from the founder when he or she is in the room. So that's what I often advise.
Thank you. Then the next question is from club resident Bridget. She's joining us from the United States of America. The question is, there are times children are not interested in their parent business. Yes. How should parents get their children involved and support family business? The child is just not interested. How do you get them to be involved so that the interest will even be developed? She asked that, especially if they are only interested in building their own careers, not somehow connected to your business in any way. How do you deal with that?
I often see the other side of the worst case scenario of this, which is the founder is approaching retirement. His and her kids, they're in Canada, or even if they're in Accra or Lagos, like you said, they have their own careers. and they're like, what am I going to do with this business? And I have to sell it. That's usually the extreme of the implication of this. But the reality is that children will not be interested in what they don't know. And often founders assume that the same passion that they have for this business, somehow their kids will have it, but they can't love what they don't know. So they've not been exposed to the business. And when we look at immigrant populations like Indian Africans or Lebanese Africans, they do this very well. They start to expose their kids to their businesses from a very young age. They're spending their summers there, they're coming to the office. They also, another thing that would promote this emotional ownership of the business and this genuine passion and interest is to invite for the children's opinions and allow for them to have a voice and allow for them to make a stamp on the business in their own way. Quite often, founders will be speaking to the children about the business, not speaking with the children to co-build the business. So because they don't see a role for themselves, and particularly something that they have not cultivated themselves. In this day and age, they probably will want to build a more tech-focused business, that sustainability angle. Perhaps it's, so for them to take an interest in it, they have to be given room to make a stamp on it. And I think, sorry, I just want to add one more point. And it is possible for them to build their own careers as well as make the stamp on the business, right? It is possible for them to be advisors to the business, sit on the board of the business, help in building a family office or family foundation or seeking new investments or looking for new initiatives in the business whilst building their careers.
In other words, they should be encouraged rather than working with the assumption that because they see you go up and down, they know what you are doing.
Indeed.
The next question is from Bridget. Bridget without a surname, but I'm kind enough, so I'll work with that. And the question is it advisable to take a bank loan to start a business in the context of generational wealth creation, I should presume?
So Dr. Suzy and the financial people will probably advise you and say that it depends on the terms and conditions and everything. However, it depends on the type of loan we're talking about, the tenure. Do you have assets available to pledge? Are we talking about a startup? So it's just an idea? Are we talking about expansion? It really does depend, but typically, from my experience, a lot of banks will not lend to start a business where you don't have prior experience or prior cash track record. So prior business experience. So if you already have an existing business and then you're starting a new one, then usually they will be more inclined to lend. But in the instance where you don't, they will typically need a lot of security. So do you have much assets to pledge towards this? Usually entrepreneurs in starting businesses end up looking to friends and family. But Dr. Suzy, this is your...
Yeah, I see her nod. Maybe she wants to make a point or two.
I'll pull Doris back on the stage as the financial planner and all that. But we learn in business school. I mean, there are various forms of funding your business. You start with yourself, you start with family, you go to friends, then you go public. Public, that is raising capital, long-term capital through equity participation or debt. But when it comes to business, it must be long-term. So Doris, I'll ask you to share some thoughts. Is it advisable to take a loan to start a business?
I'll say no. And the reason why I say no is that it would be like chasing after the winds. You see, if you have a business idea and you are starting a business, people want to see your level of commitment, how much skin you yourself have got in that business before they try to meet you halfway by supporting you with any form of financing, whether it is equity through private equity or whether it's a loan or all the various forms of financing that you can access. And so basically the reason why my answer is a straightforward no is that chances of successfully raising that capital to start the business immediately would probably be 1 in 10 or even 1 in 100. You are better off trying, testing it with your own resources. Like Dr. Suzy said, bootstrap, do family and friends, use your savings, and steadily grow it to a point where you are ready to scale. Because now you can see that the customers accept your value proposition and they are ready to go on the journey with you. Then you can take a loan, but to start, I don't recommend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have just 4 minutes to go. It's been very exciting. It's been very engaging. I know a number of you have questions. I've seen a question on private equity. Yes, we have private equity firms in the country as fund managers, as wealth managers. We always participate in private equity transactions on behalf of our clients. So if you need more information, please reach out to us. I'll ask Evans now to share some announcement with us, and we'll drop off the call at exactly 4 p.m. Thank you very much.
Dr. Suzy, would you please be kind for us to take the last question coming in from
Evans?
Nia Mate? Hello, Dr. Suzy. Well, she seemed not to hear me. I'll proceed. Nick, this comes to you. So thanks for the presentation, Nick. How will a young graduate who right after school has to begin to care and provide for his or her parents? How can one plan and raise some capital to start a business? So on one hand, you're taking care of your parents financially and otherwise, and you also required to make some savings to be able to start a business. How do you work the two side by side?
This is not my jurisdiction. This is financial advisor. Sorry, can we defer to
Doris?
Doris.
Evans, please take the question again for me. I think I was a bit distracted.
I'm a fresh graduate coming out of school. I have the responsibility on one hand to take care of my parents. On the other hand, I'm also thinking of raising some capital through savings to start a business. How do I strike the right balance?
So the right balance will be what works for you. This is your life. And these are your parents. We tend to say that when it comes to saving and investing, don't use the approach of after I have spent, I will save or I will invest what is left behind. So you start by setting a little goal to say every month or whatever I earn, I'm setting 30% aside to save or invest towards my business. That's the approach. Now, when you use that approach, it means that you deduct that percentage and invest it before you even allocate the remaining to spending on your parents and whatever other living commitments that you have to make. And so I think that would be the simple answer to how do you find the right balance. The choice is up to you whether you are going to invest 10% or 20% or 30%, because we will not be able to tell from this forum the size of the kitty or how much you are earning so that we can tell that it can buy food for you. But don't get into the mindset that it may not be enough. First, even if it's not enough at all, set aside 10% to invest. before you now spend the remaining 90? Thank you.